Hey, greetings. It is a beautiful, beautiful afternoon, evening, whatever. Doesn't really matter. It is after 12 p.m., so it is afternoon, getting into the evening hours, and we are looking out over a beautiful, beautiful pond shore here in northern, I guess northwestern Middlesex County, Massachusetts. Approaching the edge of Worcester County, but that doesn't really matter. What does matter is that this is a very cool, very fascinating habitat here. Not quite a bog, but also not quite an open pond, but nevertheless acidic and swampy. And you have a very nice cast of characters going off here, somewhat akin to a bog in New Hampshire I spent a lot of time in, but with a few extra representatives of the plant community. You get a little extra. So I guess I can start with what we're looking at right here and focus right here. You get the three, I guess the backs of them. Those are three spent inflorescences from Sarracenia purpurea. That's the purple pitcher plant, our native pitcher plant, and rest assured, I'll get in there and I will, show you with great detail what's going on. But let's appreciate what we have kind of at arm's reach right now. So that's Sarracenia purpurea, a plant we've seen plenty of times. I'm doing a plant spotlight on it. Don't worry, I'll talk about it. Carnivorous plants get everybody all excited. Get another species of carnivorous plant here that I will show you in just a second as well. You get a species of Drosera, Drosera rotundifolia. And then of principal interest to me, you also have a species of orchid going off right here. And I'll get into all of that. I'm just going to kind of go through and explain to you generally what we've got going on here. You get some beaver activity you can take note of. You have a shallow, fairly stagnant body of water with lots of tannic, pine trees and oak trees dumping their leaf litter into it, creating a very acidic, very anoxic and hard to grow in community for the plants here. Classic New England pond shore, classic New England bog. All of this is absolutely not something I would consider a bog. What else have you got contributing to it? Oh, the very rock I'm sitting on right now is, leached granite, which in of itself is contributing, acidic washout into the soil here. So essentially what that means, just to recap, I've talked about this a bunch of times before, you have a highly acidic community, you have a lack of available nitrogen. So there's a ton of organic matter in here, but none of the nitrogen of its, decomposing. This is not enough oxygen. None of the nitrogen here is available to these plants. So you have a variety of plants that are adapted to that type of habitat. I suppose I might as well start here with two of the plants that aren't in bloom. I'll just take my camera off, it doesn't matter. Take the camera off really quick. Come on, sometimes it doesn't always work with me. There we go. So right here in the foreground, nothing too terribly showy. You have a plant in the species Loosestrife. It's the same family. Yeah, this trailing bastard right here. It's the same family as the dreaded purple loosestrife, but this is a native. They call this swamp loosestrife, again, not in bloom. This is Decodon verticillatus. Beautiful, beautiful rings of purple flowers pop up at the nodes here when the thing does go off, but this won't be going off to the end of next month. Like I said, it's mid-June right now. This thing will be going off mid-July, August. Get in there. There's a little spider hanging out. That's kind of nice. You get some real pretty venation to the leaves there. Looks like a gall. That's kind of interesting. Like I said, Loosestrife, not many native plants in that family here, but this is one of them, and a beautiful one at that. The flowers do resemble purple loosestrife, which will be going off soon, which is a dreaded invasive that actually, competes for this habitat with its cousin here. But, nice to have the native one. Also kind of unusual, let me move my camera stand out of the way, just because there's not a lot of plants in the family here, and also not in flower, you have a melastome. Alright, this is Rexia virginica. Beautiful, beautiful tropical looking flower on this thing when it does bloom. Again, won't be going off until next month, but this one is, I'd say, fairly a bit more distinct, and even in its foliage display and hopefully you can get that. That's coming across in the camera correctly. The thing's a little fuzzy, and come on, where's a better example? Here's one. Here's a better example. So just really pay attention to that venation. That's going to give it away for you every single time that this is, you know, a melastome. Hairy leaves, very, very, very characteristic venation. Like I just said, leaves are opposite. And you know, Melastome, what makes this special is it's basically, you know, Melastome is basically a family that's entirely restricted to the tropics, except for this one genus, Rexia, which you get exclusively up and down the east coast of North America, you know, up into Canada even, and I think you also get it, I think maybe one species down in the Caribbean, but don't quote me on that. Most of the diversity in this genus is in Florida. Actually, I'm going to take a brief pause there because it just occurred to me that this thing's not on the macro mode. Okay, I'm not sure if that makes any, you know, real difference there, but there you go. Once again, Rexia virginica. Wonderful plant when it goes off. One of my favorites. Melastome is an incredible, incredible family. And yeah, this is basically a tropical transplant in the Northeast. I got a whole episode where I go really in depth on this. Makes an appearance in another really cool pond shore episode down in Cape Cod. And you technically get Rexia marylandica, or marylandicum, whatever it is. Marylandica, I think is correct, out on Cape Cod, but that's significantly more rare than this. This one's pretty, you know, widespread up here. Even as you get away from that region. Coming over here, oh, excuse me. You have one I find real interesting, although not very, you know, charismatic normally. This is in bloom. This is actually a graminoid right here. So this is in the, you know, broadly related to grasses. This is a species of Sparganium. Don't ask me what specific one. There's quite a few of them, and I couldn't tell you. Take a look at that inflorescence there. Look how cool that is. You know, it's beautiful. This is actually most closely related to cattails, you know, in the genus Typha. So cattails and Sparganium are the only two genera in that entire family, Typhaceae. Typhaceae, of course, is in the order of grasses, Poales. So, yeah, you could say, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a grass, but you're definitely A-okay saying that this is a graminoid. And let me get in there for you. Of course, it doesn't really resemble its relative cattails at all, except for the fact that it has, you know, those highly reduced inflorescences there. But I digress. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful plant. Just wish more people would kind of pay attention to this one because it's super interesting. All right, where do we want to go now? Oh yeah, there's another one. There's another one right there. You know, quite a few of them. Real distinct fruits too. Really distinct fruits. Looking across here, you get your Peltandra. I'll talk about that in just a second. Let me get down here, and again, I won't spend too much time talking about this plant because it will eventually become, you know, one of our excuse me, one of our plant spotlight plants, and I've talked about it before at length. You get Drosera down there. Let me really get in there for you. Drosera rotundifolia. Family's Sarracenia, same family as Venus flytraps, but instead of closing on them, it wraps its insect prey, and those sticky little glands rolls up on them, and then uses the decomposing insect tissue, essentially as its nitrogen fix. You know, real interesting. Not in bloom, but you know, there's plenty of them around. Offers interest, you know, year-round. Same family as, oh, I already said that. Same family as the Venus flytraps. And different genus, obviously, but in the order Caryophyllales, so more closely related to spinach, beets, and cacti than it is to the Sarracenia purpurea, which is, we'll go take a look at in a second. But what else to get here? Anything else of interest here? I think I'll break it off right here for just a second. We'll go over, we'll shift our attention over onto the other side here. I'll give you a look at the Peltandra inflorescence. There's Peltandra right there. That's in bloom. Give you a close look up at the Sarracenia, and then I'll show you the actual plant that brought me out here today in just a second. All right, and right here you got one that you know, I really like, even though it's not, I guess it's pretty charismatic even when it's just the leaves. This is Peltandra virginica, not to be confused with a plant with similar looking leaves, but very different looking flowers, Sagittaria, different genus, only one species in the genus Peltandra here in the Northeast. So it's in the family Sarracenia, same family as a lot of those house plants, you know, Monstera, Alocassia, etc. I'll show you what the inflorescence looks like right down in here. Kind of inconspicuous. Let me get some guys in there right now. Wonder what they're doing. Typical arum inflorescence, not very showy. Here's you get the spadix, the spathe, I'm sorry, surrounds. Let me get in there. The spathe surrounds the spadix. So in here, you have a whole cluster of flowers, presumably down at the base. All right. Or maybe the female flowers down to the base. Weird flowering habits of these. Not terribly showy, but these things are kind of weird, you know. Is this one a little bit more open? Yeah, not really. You can at least get it into the light for you. This is it's not easy. Just one hand. There you go. So this whole thing is all the flowering structure. Presumably you get the female flowers down in here. You'll have the male flowers up in here. The whole thing, they usually do male face first, female face second. If I get that mistaken, I'll correct myself after. But I'm pretty sure I get that right. Jack and the pulpit's in the same family. You know, Arisma triphyllum, Simplocarpus fluidus, skunk cabbages in that family. And this is just another, you know, yet another one that we get. Not too many. And then you get a whole bunch of tiny diminutive little duckweed looking things like lemna and it doesn't really matter right now. Wolfia, Wolfiella are two other genera. But, you know, not a terribly, you know, a very large family globally, but not terribly diverse here in the Northeast. And I suppose on that note, you know, I might as well show you. Hang on, we'll take a look at the pitcher plant real quick. I'll get my camera over there in focus for you, and I will show you that. Give me 1 second. Let me get the tripod back out for you. Yeah, all right, there you go. How you like that? Sarracenia purpurea. Yet another carnivorous plant native to the Northeast. Guys get quite a broad range. These go, you know, pretty far west. I think almost out to Alaska. I'm not 100% sure. Coming up on this nice sphagnum substrate. Sphagnum is the genus there. Spagnaceae is the family. Sphagnum moss. And remember, this guy's doing the same thing. Well, not the same thing, but he's trying to accomplish the same thing as the Drosera is. You know, just making do with what it can, using an adaptation to capture nutrients, to capture nitrogen, getting it from insects instead of getting it from the soil. But unlike making a little sticky trap with glands, this plant decided to modify its leaves to, and again, the little sticky glands on the Drosera are the modified leaves. This guy's modified leaf is instead a big pitcher, all right, fills with water. Bug's gonna fly down in there. It's gonna get trapped. It's going to get digested. It's going to be used as a makeshift fertilizer. I'm growing these from seed right now, and it's going pretty darn well. I'll probably do a video on that at some point. I get a plant spotlight video that I've already filmed. I'm going to put up about this, but I might as well. What the heck? You're taking the time to watch an actual NEcology video instead of a plant spotlight video. I'll take this off the tripod again. We'll get in there with those flowers. So here's the back. Those 5 sepals. You get 5 red sepals coming up on the stalk. Super leathery. I'm gonna have to fumble with the. We'll put this on autofocus. So those are those 5 sepals. Super duper leathery. Flip this guy over. Those are those withered petals. So they get 5 red petals. Thing would be full of stamens if it was still, you know, in full bloom. There's that ripening ovary down there in the middle. And this entire shield-like thing here on the bottom. This is all one big modified style. So you see this ridge right here. Get up in there. Flick that guy down. Oh, you still got some of the anthers in there. Right there, that little notch right there. There's 5 of them around the whole thing. 5 Myrrhus flower. That's the stigma right there. So you get your stigma, 1 of 5. This 5-lobed style. You know, wildly enough, the thing's still dumping out pollen. 5 petals now withered because the thing's been pollinated. Your 5 sepals. There's 2 more of them right there. I hate the autofocus. And again, just comes up from those basal modified pitcher leaves down at the bottom. And I suppose, move my tripod out of the way there, without further ado, might as well talk about what brought me out here in the first place. Again, this is a swampy habitat, but I'm, just trying to be mindful. I'm right on the edge here. We have, get this around me, a stunning species of orchid, and much like, I don't need the autofocus on anymore, much like the beautiful species of Cypripedium we get up here in the Northeast, this one's also kind of a taxonomic oddity. Alright, I'm going to flip this guy around for you. Boom. That is Pogonia ophioglossoides, which absolutely is a mouthful. And I'll get in there for you. I'll kind of dissect the anatomy here for you. Just make sure that I can zoom in real good for you. So Pogonia ophioglossoides, you get this all up and down the East Coast, from Florida up to New England, and then across the Great Lakes. Not a terribly rare orchid in the grand scheme of things, but certainly a very beautiful one. So this modified petal here at the bottom, remember, that is the labellum. That's kind of the main, the main thing these guys got going on. Down in there, you're going to have your pollinarium, your pollinia. These two things up here, those are the two modified, those are the two top petals. These are three-mers, and then you have your three sepals around that second layer. Bract right here, subtending the ovary. Remember, these are inferior ovaries behind the flower. Cypripedium does that as well. You get a bract behind the ovary. And then down here, you can see how it gets the epithet ophioglossoides. Ophioglossoides, resembling an ophioglossum, resembling an adder's tongue fern. Here's that leaf right there. Single leaf on the guy. And he just sends up his flowering stalk. So these are in the, look at those calli to manipulate pollinator behavior. These things smell delicious, by the way. Smells like a nice citrus candy. Wonderful flower, absolutely beautiful. And those are, like I just said, presumably to manipulate pollinator behavior. I'll get that guy in side profile for you right there for a second. I'll talk a little about it. So these are one of only three Vanilloideae in the Vanilloideae subfamily of orchids we get here in the Northeast. Vanilla is famous. Everybody's tasted it. I think most people are familiar with the fact that it's an orchid. And yeah, this and another genus we were looking into. Of course, I'll double check this. I could be wrong. Just offhand, I think we only got the three. This in a plant I was looking for last week, the Isotria verticillata, and then Isotria Vanilloideae, the world Pogonias as they're called, are all in that subfamily. Vanilloideae, one of the more basal subfamilies, I believe more basal than Cypripedioideae. So these broke off even earlier, and I could kind of see it. Their flowers are a little bit more, traditional looking than some of the really weird shits you get in the other subfamilies. But beautiful flower, smells like sweet and citrusy. It's really nice. There's actually quite a few of them around. There's one right there, down in there. I see a whole bunch out across the bog here. There's, or not bog, you know what I mean, the pond edge here. There's one right there. And the one that I first saw when I rolled up on the spot, not as open as the one I just showed you. Where'd it go? What the hell? It was right here. Same thing going on there. I can't find the basal. Oh, this guy got snapped off, it looks like. There's that leaf. Ophioglossum. Cool genus of ferns, too, if you ever want to look into those. Also rare. Probably more rare than this plant is. Like I said, you go south, it's a pretty common species of plant. These guys are all over Florida, the Carolinas, from what I hear. Bloom much earlier in the season. Like I said, it's mid-June. These guys are just starting up. But what a nice plant. Oh, and what a nice habitat. Follow this pond shore around. There's that Pogonia. There are those Sarracenia. There's the rest of the habitat. You go further in, you get some nice pond lilies. I'm not going to do that though. And kind of stumbled into here on accident. Show you a couple other things real quick. Right here, you can always tell you're going to see some interesting stuff when you get these massive Vaccinium corymbosum. This is high bush blueberry. Take a look at the leaves there. How lovely. How nice. I've been getting a new appreciation though for the bark on these ericaceous plants. This is in the family Ericaceae, which I would broadly call the blueberry family. And then right there is another member of the family Ericaceae. I found a better specimen a little bit further back. I'll show you that. And then I think we'll be getting out of here. That's a cool species of rhododendron, Rhododendron viscosum, the swamp azalea. But like I said, I think I found a better spot for that guy. So we'll say farewell to our lovely acidic pond shore for now. I'll definitely be coming back here. I'll show you that cool, lovely smelling azalea, and then I think we'll be hitting the road. And you know Ericaceae does numbers in these wetland communities. You got a rhododendron and you got a vaccinium growing right next to each other. What I can only imagine is Vaccinium corymbosum coming up right here. There's some sort of feathery, carroty looking thing down there. Kind of want to check that out, but whatever. Is your Vaccinium, and then just what is rapidly becoming, make sure I'm not stepping in anything poisonous here, what is rapidly becoming one of my absolute favorite plants. Not just in the family Ericaceae, but in general. You have this intoxicating smelling Rhododendron viscosum here. The swamp azalea, as it is called, and I mean this thing even from here just smells incredible. Viscosum, let me just zoom in there for you. Viscosum, that epithet in the last video, one of the last videos I did, I see this plant too. That comes from the sticky glandular calyces that these things have. And I mean, oh my god, how can you not see that and it not brighten up your day? What a beautiful, beautiful specimen. Oh my god. Alright, and here you go. Here's that rhododendron. Rhododendron viscosum, the swamp azalea. 4 beautiful white petals. There's the stigma right there. Probably, I can't tell. These just started. You can see most of them are still in bud. A beautiful flower. Smells intoxicating. Oh my goodness, I love the way rhododendrons smell. Occupying quite a few variety of habitats here in New England. You know, boggy, swampy pond shores. Well, I guess swampy pond shores, which is why this is a rhododendron viscosum. Although I don't know what viscosum, what that epithet is hinting at, but I guess that's why they call it the swamp azalea. Anyway, that was kind of a butchered sentence. Take a look at the hang on, take a look at the floral tube there. Look how many glands are on that thing. Ooh, that can be a diagnostic for quite a few species, like Paracleminoides and Pernophyllum. Leaves aren't really anything to write home about. Rhododendrons are pretty, hard to tell apart. The leaves are pretty hard to tell apart from one another in a lot of the cases, except for, rhododendron growing Landicum's got those really nice bronzy fuzzy undersides, but that's not the case for this species. Quite a few species of rhododendron in the Northeast, viscosum, Pernophyllum, Canadens, growing Landicum. Get some real, rare. You get some real rare ones like Laponicum, which is widespread but only occupies, certain habitats. And like I said, everything from these warm, swampy pond shores to mountaintops and everything in between. You gotta just be, you gotta just be within a pissing distance of a nice, body of water. And then again, it could be a river. I saw rhododendron Pernophyllum coming up on the Connecticut River shore, which would also mean that they could take some calcareous. They could take some calcareous soil. Of course, clearly this one's favoring the acidic stuff. I know Canadens greatly favors the acidic soil, and then we'll be going to see rhododendron maximum this year at some point. But I think I'm going to cut it off there. You can see a lot of these have just barely started to come out of bud. But I think I'm going to leave it there. I think that was a pretty cool little, that's where we just came from, down over here. I think that was a pretty cool little habitat to get to explore. And I'll be coming back here probably later in the summer just to see, have a good spot to see that that Decodon go off, because that was something I kind of butchered my explanation of that plant last year. I wanted to talk a little bit more about it. But, Another ericaceous plant. That's another one of those rhododendron, not rhododendron, Vaccinium corymbosums. Presumably a red maple right here, Acer rubrum. And I think on that note, I've just about said everything I can say about this little corner. Always nice when you can do an episode with a ton of species in a small location. That's what makes these spots interesting. Anyway, stay tuned for that Sarracenia purpurea plant spotlight, and just stay tuned hopefully for any other videos I got coming out in the future. Have a good one. I'm telling you, those beavers, they get to work. They felled this log and they just left it here. They're busybodies. A little bit terrified of beavers, you know. But yeah, that's what they're doing. Also, you got not in bloom. Didn't even mention this. Another common plant you see in these types of habitats. You got clethra on the folia here. Close relative of the blueberry family. This is in its own small little family called Sarracenia. Yeah, I talked enough about this plant last year. I'll just show you. There's some of the spent fruits from last year. Sweet pepper bush, really pleasant smelling plant. It'll be going off in July. Goes off at the same it puts on its show after, you know, the blueberries are first and the rhododendrons, then the clethra. You get the laurels too, but the laurels are more up in the back. You know, they like the drier stuff. Clethra, rhododendron, and blueberry, especially Vaccinium corymbosum, especially the high bush blueberry, tend to like the wetter stuff. Anyway, I've exhausted pretty much everything I wanted to say. I think I'm gonna get out of here for the time being. Okay, this is what I meant by, you know, they'll be up, they'll be here, but they'll be further back. This is what I meant. You get the Calmia, you get the laurels, Calmia latifolia, further back in the woods, you know, a ways away from where we were down near the pond shore there. But on the same type of acidic shit, they just like it a bit more well drained. We just talked about this. This thing was in full bloom last week, or the week before, when I was down there in the Holyoke Range. So you can go watch a little bit more info about that. But that's you know, that's real lovely. Real lovely. God, I know I said we weren't really going to focus on these things and that we were done, but Jesus. You come out here, I don't care how shitty your day was, how much you hate your job, how much you've been arguing with your girlfriend, or your partner, or whoever, you know, you're having a real tough time dealing with your mom, having a real tough time setting boundaries, you know, your job sucks, you're miserable. You walk through a grove of Calmia latifolia, you just experience, look at this thing, it's like a damn tree, covered in bugs. I mean, you can hear them buzzing just all over the thing. Good God almighty. That's a fucking nice plant. Different habitat than what we spent the episode talking about, but a fucking nice plant. Yeah, screw it, why not? Here's another species of Calmia. One of the four, you know. Calmia latifolia is the big one with the white flowers. This is Calmia angustifolia, medium size with the red and pink flowers. You get Calmia polifolia, which also is medium size with pink flowers, but it's got opposite leaves, not world leaves like this one does. And the leaves are stiff, leathery, and small. And you get Calmia procumbens, which you only really get, you know, way up in the alpine zone, Mount Washington. Handful of species of Calmia in North America. I don't know if you get them many other places. Maybe you get one species on the west coast. Procumbens is circumboreal. You get that at high elevations and high latitudes in a few locations around the world. But I think most of them, angustifolia and latifolia especially, are just limited to the, well, angustifolia to the northeast, latifolia to the east. You get Calmia hirsuta. I think there's 7 species total. It's a really, really cool genus, really showy. But they're, you know, they're pretty common. I mean, you'll see these things. I mean, look at, they're everywhere. You'll see these things in a variety of habitats. The angustifolia definitely, from what I can tell, hey, look at this fat bumblebee. Angustifolia, at least from what I can tell, is, you know, likes the driest of the habitats, you know, and you'll never see polifolia outside of a bog. Latifolia is generally on moist but well-drained slopes, And then procumbens is basically, you know, anything in that habitat that procumbens is habitating or living in will be, you know, pretty moist. Coming up under some ominously clicking high tension wires, you know, you should play in power line easements. You really should play in power line easements. It's a lot of fun. You see a lot of good stuff in them. You know, everything that needs the disturbance to come up, like Comptonia peregrina here, one of my favorites. Ooh, you got a fruit. Ooh, a fruit on the Comptonia. Check that out. That's pretty cool. Thus indicating it's not a fern at all. It's in the family Maricaceae. It's a distant relative of oaks, much closer relative of bayberry, stuff like that. But yeah, you can smell this thing. These things smell incredible. Just walking through a little meadow full of them like I am right now. It smells incredible. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. For good this time. I'm just dip up back to my car.